But that's a new year.
And I don't know if it's old, but yes. We're looking at
Just general, not today.
No, I did. Oh, yes, you're.
In the
Hi, how are you?
Oh, yeah.
She heard.
So, hi everybody. Welcome back to those of you that were here before. If you just arrived, my name is Maria Borshaw. I'm the founder and executive director of BAX, and this is the third of four of our Artists in Residence Open Studios. They're part of a year-long way in which we engage our artists in residence through showings, through more full performances, through meetings, through a wide variety of ways that we wind up involved in work, in life, in questions, in revelations, and today is a big part of it. It kind of, at least for these four artists that are here today, it kind of marks the point that they also become more deeply familiar with one another, which is also a really important time in the season. Showings. Hi. Hello over there. I don't know how many people have been watching, but I hope quite a few. We are doing that for two reasons. One, because we want to make sure that anyone who couldn't be here today, either because they weren't free, or squeezing it in because they're at work or something along that line, or if they can't make it up our steps, that they can also share in these showings today. And it also is serving as archival video for these artists and for BAX, which is great. If you're new and you don't get emails from us, there's a sign-up sheet in the room that has all the food and booze and coffee and tea. And I'm going to turn this over to Aya. Aya.
So, I'm Aya. This is a little crazy. For today's showing, I'm planning to read the first half of a play that I'm working on, and some people in the room have heard some versions of it, and it's not radically different from, if you have heard it before, it's not radically different, but there is one scene that I expanded on, and I'm playing with kind of orders of scenes. As you can see, I don't have any actors, and so I'm really sorry to ask this labor audience, but in order for this event to happen, I need your help. So if you, and of course, if you don't feel comfortable, you can refuse. What's your name?
Spencer.
Spencer?
Pleasure to meet you.
Are you an actor?
Yes.
Would you like to act?
I would love to.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't know how to shut you out.
Totally.
Okay, cool. So let me, I'm going to get a few more people up here and then we'll talk about who's playing what. Hi, Nia. Hi. How would you feel about reading?
I'd love to.
Yeah? Oh my God! Thank you. This should be the show. Wow. Jane, would you? Sure. Really? Oh my God. And Dre is in my show. So here, have a seat here. I'm going to remove this chair because I counted incorrectly. So here are your scripts. Okay,
Thank you.
3, 4. And I do have an extra script for you to follow. This is Gian. She's my costumes and set designer. Okay. So let's see. I am going to read the part that I usually play in the play, and also read stage directions because obviously this is where we are. So Dre had requested to play Aya 3, so you're going to play Aya 3 and marry Nina when she happens. Let's see. Nia, would you mind please playing Aya 1 and Dean? And also Mom, but sorry, in the script it'll kind of say, because there are multiple moms, it'll say Aya 1 as Mom, and then...
Or Aya 1 as Dean.
Exactly.
Okay.
Jane, would you mind playing Aya 2?
Sure.
And Spencer, could you play Aya 4 and Rachel? Okay. Never done this before. So, okay. So here I go. This is called The Nosebleed. That's sick with you. Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm Aya Ogawa, and I'm a theater maker. Welcome to this work in progress reading of The Nosebleed. I personally don't like surprises, so I'm going to just tell you right now, yes, there's going to be a nosebleed in the play. Today we will be reading just the first half of the play. I started working on this project after the 2016 presidential elections, and I gave it the working title Failure Sandwich, and it began as an open exploration of what failure is and who defines it and how we deal with it. And with a group of collaborators, we talked about failures, our own personal failures, from small ones to big ones. Some people talked about the failure of their bodies, like disease, cancer, infertility. Some people talked about failures that happened in their youth, failures that we inherit from our parents, and those that we pass on to our children. So all of that led me to write this play, because I felt like I had to kind of take I felt I had to take responsibility for the room we were occupying by sharing my own failures, and that became this play. So this play is atypical of my work in a number of ways. I've never created something so autobiographical, but this is such, and it's very horrifying. Anyway, let me introduce you to my collaborators for today. I already forgot who I assigned to Aya 1. Nia. So that's Nia. She's playing, well, would you like to introduce yourself? And maybe if you feel like it, you can share a story of a small failure from the week.
Hi everybody, I'll be playing Aya starting now.
No, actually, you'll share your story if you want to share it, and then you can say that. Yeah.
Okay, oh great, okay. Failure from the week. My realization that I can be happy in a relationship that I had thrown in the trash. I know it doesn't seem like a failure, but the failure of it is that it followed me for a long time, up until like right before I got here to BAX today.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was the wrong answer. I mean, like literally, but also, and so I feel like how I felt at my own ability to take a part of my own growth, yeah, at this age. Right. Yeah. So I don't know how it's gonna feel. I don't, yeah. Well, it is failure.
And you will be introducing.
Oh, and this is Christensen White Guy, Dr. Christensen. Aya too, I'm sorry.
No, that's wait, yes.
Yeah.
So that's Jane.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Jane. I'm sorry, Jane. I'm sorry, I'm in and out of trying to get like.
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to turn that over.
Don't worry about it.
This is my buddy and person in crime, Jane.
And Jane, if you feel like sharing a failure story of the week, you can. You don't have to at all.
I very few failures, but I haven't. This week was a giant fail on writing thank you notes, which I feel very strongly about. So we'll try more this coming week. And I will be playing Aya starting now, and this is the one and only Dre.
Hi. I'm Dre. I was just thinking this morning, I had a very good night last night. I had a fun night where I went out, met some friends at a party, a dance party, and then I met this girl. She was a lot of fun. It was a lot of flirting. She was taking a lot of space. And then I realized, in a good way, it was like she was feminine. She was like, yes, and my friend who was with me also had a friend who was also more quiet. And this morning I felt like, oh, I had such a good night. And then I felt like, oh, that other person, I felt bad for not giving her attention socially, that we all didn't give enough attention to her socially. And I felt like some responsibility because I was putting all this attention on like this person that I was flirting with, and I was like, and I just felt like, oh, I wish we had shared more collectively. I guess I just felt bad that I felt like that person was quieter, not taking up as much space, and I was like, I don't know, I just felt a little bad about it, even though I was like, oh, I had so much fun, and then I was like, oh wait, there was something bad. There was something. Anyway, I will be playing Aya number 3, and this is Spencer.
Yes, this is Spencer. So I guess I try to wake up pretty early. 6 a.m. is like the ideal wake up time. And I sometimes experience some difficulty doing that. And so every minute past 6 a.m. is considered a personal failure. Like, oh my God, how could I not manage? Yeah, so today I woke up at 7:30, so that's an hour and a half of failure, right? And it's a whip, work in progress. And I will be playing Aya starting now.
Cool. Thank you so much. And I just want to also acknowledge that that there is, I feel that there is violence in inhabiting, taking on characters and speaking other people's words, and so I just want to thank you for agreeing to do this, and just want to acknowledge that. So another way this work is atypical, this play is atypical of my work, is that I will also be performing in it. I usually don't, But unlike all of my wonderful collaborators, I will not be playing Aya. I will be playing other people, including my 5-year-old son, Kenya, who starts this play by having the titular nosebleed. So I'm going to take a vial of fake blood, and I'm going to squeeze it into my nose, and I'm going to start screaming and crying for my mom, and then all of the Ayas are going to rush over to me and take care of me and kind of take me off to the corner of the room and clean off the blood off of my face and put me to bed. And then we're going to continue on into scene 1, the mortuary.
We are so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. This is Mary Nina Hill of the Paul Mortuary in Pacific Grove, California, part of the Dignity Memorial Network. Mary Nina was an older toad-like woman with glasses.
We have your father's body here in the back.
Okay.
We're going to cover a lot of things today. I'm so sorry you have to deal with this right now. Just let us know if there's anything we can do to make things easier.
Thanks. I'm Aya. That's my mom. Okay.
So, first of all, have you given any thought, or did your father express his wishes as to what should happen to his body after his passing?
Yeah, we're going to have him cremated.
Very good information. And have you been in touch with any cemeteries in the area about?
No, we're just going to, we're not going to keep him in the cemetery.
All right. When would you like to schedule a memorial service for him?
Oh, I don't think we're going to have a service for him.
Oh, okay. What about viewing of the body?
No thanks.
Okay, well, we still need you to select a coffin for him because, well, before we have him sent over to be cremated, we have to have you look at him and, well, identify him as your father.
Do you need a coffin for that?
I'm afraid we do.
We can't view him in whatever he is right now.
No, I'm afraid not. I'm so sorry. So, here's our selection of coffins. As you can see, there's quite a range in terms of...
Is this the least expensive one?
Yes, it's made of pine. And...
That's fine.
Very good. And it makes complete sense since you're not going to have a public viewing or a service to make this selection. It's a very good coffin.
Okay.
And what about his remains? We have a wide range of urns in many materials: clothon, brass, wood, jade, marble, crystal.
Just the simplest kind would be great.
We have many simple, elegant designs here. Here's a lighthouse. Here's a golf course. Do you play golf?
The plain one is fine, just a plain metal box.
It's brass. Great. And what would you like engraved on the plate?
We don't need the...
It comes with the birth.
Okay.
Usually, people put the name of the deceased, their birthday, and the day they passed.
Okay.
Mrs. Ogawa, maybe you can fill those out for me then. There is a limit on the word count, but I don't think it will be a problem. And now where shall I have the death certificate sent to?
To my mother, her address is...
Is it the Pebble Beach address?
Yes.
Very good.
Could you please send 20 copies?
Excuse me, you want 20 copies?
Death certificate?
We can have as many copies made as you like, but they do cost $15 per copy.
That's fine.
Very good. Now, we do offer a service to print an obituary in the Monterey Herald. The first 50 words are no charge. Since you're not having a memorial service, perhaps this would be a nice way to honor his memory.
Right. We'll have to think about it.
It's a good way to let the community know of his passing.
He didn't have many friends.
You let me know about that.
Mary Nina exits. I too enters delivering the urn to Mom.
When my father's remains arrived from the that shows, it's set on the plate.
Akira Ogawa, born August 15, 1930, died January 17, 2006.
What?
Born August 15, 1930, died January 17, 2006.
2007.
Oh no,
2007, Mom. 2007.
it was January and I wasn't used to writing the new year yet.
I know.
Should we have a new one named?
I don't know.
We didn't.
Scene 2.
So show of hands, who here has watched the TV reality show The Bachelor or The Bachelorette? I'm ashamed to admit this to such a large group of strangers, but I've been a pretty faithful follower of the franchise myself. There's just something so horrible and addictive about watching predominantly white people try to find true love on
Who here watched the season of The Bachelorette starring Rachel Lindsay? First ever black bachelorette. Woo-hoo!
Kenya starts crying again, so we have to keep the volume down and continue.
I was so super excited to watch Rachel's season. Rachel's an attorney, she's beautiful and funny, she does not take any bullshit. And she's a person of color, starring in a major network show. So the way the show works, the bachelorette is thrown into a pool of 25 eligible bachelors. And every week, after going on dates with these men, she eliminates them until she's down to one guy she's going to presumably marry.
A couple summers ago, I took my kids to Japan to put them in Japanese school, and it was right in the middle of Rachel's season of BAX. So I had to watch the episodes via grainy, illegal uploads on YouTube.
Anyway, when I caught up, Rachel was down to the final 4 guys and they were doing hometown dates. Hometown dates are where each of the guys takes Rachel home to meet his family. I forget where Dean is from, but he was super cagey about the whole hometown thing. In the previous episode, he kept saying things like, I don't have a traditional kind of family and stuff like that. So now, we're going to see a part of this episode with Aya playing Rachel and Aya playing Dean.
I'm here in Dean's hometown of Aspen, Colorado today. All the hometowns so far have been very different from each other, and I can't wait to see what Dean has planned. I have no idea what we're going to be doing today, but I know it's going to be fun.
What's up, Ray? I'm very excited to see Rachel today. What's up? But I'm a little nervous. I'm scared of the uncertainty and everything.
I missed you.
I missed you too. The last time Rachel and I spoke, I made the point of telling her what my family dynamic was. And she seemed to take it with an open mind. But it's a little nerve-wracking. Look at these.
Thank you.
Ever since my mother passed away when I was 15, I've essentially done everything on my own. I haven't seen my father in 2 years, so today will be very difficult.
Dean and I have talked about his family quite a bit. Do you want to pump it?
They open a champagne bottle.
I know his mom passed away when he was 15, and it pretty much broke up the family unit. He he has an estranged relationship with his dad, and so if I'm able to meet all of Dean's immediate family today, it'll be the first time that they've all been under the same household in 8 years. So this is a big deal.
Right. In my eyes today, it's...
Actually, go back, you skipped a line.
I did?
No,
Right?
Spencer.
Oh, Spencer, sorry.
Hearing you talk about your family in our last one-on-one, you said, I want you to understand why I don't talk to my family as much.
Right, right. And in my eyes, it's all about you. No, I mean, it's all about you. And I want to allow you more insight to who I am with my family. And and if in 2 weeks I'm asking you to marry me, I want you to have absolute clarity on where we are, and where you are, and where they are, and all that kind of stuff.
Who am I meeting?
Well, you're gonna meet my brothers, Brad and Ross, and Brad's girlfriend Ashley, and my sister Sky. You're gonna meet my family. He's a converted Kundalini yogi, like a sheik. He also likes to wear his turban, and he has a beard down to his belly button. His name is Parama.
Say it again?
Param.
What does he want me to call him? Paramroot.
So show of hands. Show of hand. I'm sorry. Is that I1?
You jumped.
I jumped. Sorry. Just make sure that I said that right again.
If you're on page 10, do this. And we'll do some of that action.
Yeah, it means divinely beautiful, and it's a self-given name, so that speaks a little to this.
Okay.
But this is new as of 6 years ago, so he's not the father I had grown up like. This is new, essentially. So you're gonna meet his wife, whose name is Sung Tong Tar.
Sung Tong Tar.
Sung Tong Tar.
Wait. Sung Tong Tar.
Yeah. I've only met her twice, but she'll be there, and it's going to be interesting because you will be the first woman to meet my entire family under one roof.
Why haven't you talked to your dad in 2 years?
I guess my follow-up question is that it's all my responsibility to talk to my dad. I don't. Is it all my responsibility to talk to my dad? It is my responsibility to reach out to him and make sure that there's this relationship there, or is it? I don't know. I'm asking myself these questions.
Have you tried? And you've just shut down? Have you tried?
Not really, not particularly. But it's not if he wasn't there for all those years, then I just don't see the point in putting forth the effort. And I don't know. I've never been able to shake the stigma of him doing that. I don't know.
Have you ever said you weren't there for me?
No.
Well, I don't know, maybe you should tell him he wasn't.
Rachel looks at Dean. Dean looks at Rachel. Kenya's nose starts bleeding again, and he calls for Mama. All the Ayahs look at each other in a panic, and they decide that Ayah 2 should go handle it. And the Ayahs push Ayah 2 towards Kenya, and she goes to calm him down. Scene 3.
Who here has a father? Who here has a father who has died? My dad passed away some time ago, just over 10 years ago. He had a stroke, but that's not what killed him. He survived for another 2 years, but in January of 2007, my mom got a call from the home where my father was living. He was having trouble breathing, and they wanted to take him to the emergency room. They found that he had developed a really nasty infection in between his lungs and his rib cage. He was having so much trouble breathing that they had to intubate him. I flew home to California right away, and my father was at death's door.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christensen.
Dr. Christensen is not her real name. Dr. Christensen was a short white woman with chin-length hair. She looked pretty tired, and I think, in fact, she was pregnant.
The part about her being pregnant might not be true. I might be confusing it with another memory of the hospital. Because I was in high school, I was a volunteer in there in the emergency room, like a cancer. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Dr. Christensen.
Hello, doctor. I'm Aya. This is my mom.
I'm so sorry to bring this news to you, but at this point in your husband's treatment, we have to really consider our choices.
Yes.
As you know, we've drained fluid from his chest cavity, but it's still building up. We thought if we drained the fluid, his body would have a chance to fight the infection with the help of the antibiotics, but the results haven't been very good. He's not responding to the antibiotics as much as we'd like to, and I can tell he's getting very tired and very weak.
Yes, sir.
So we have to think about some difficult things now. We could pursue treatment, which would include surgery to open up his chest and remove the infection as best we can. The recovery would be quite difficult, given his age and condition, and he would probably never reach the level of mobility he had before he got sick. Could you tell me a little bit about the quality of his life prior to this?
Well, he had a stroke about 2 years ago, and it's been really difficult for him. His mobility has been compromised, and his cognitive abilities have been compromised. Generally, he hasn't been the same since the stroke. He's been really confused and frustrated and unhappy.
Do you think you'd be happy to continue living a life that was further compromised?
I don't think he.
Mom begins to emit a very strange noise, and she coughs violently, and then she pulls a long strand of black string from her mouth. Aya 1 is shocked, but tries to comfort Mom.
I understand this is Ogawa, and I know it must be so hard for you to make this decision, but what we can do is to help your husband pass painlessly and with dignity.
So dignity it was. The fluids in his lungs had built up so much that he couldn't breathe without a respirator. So the plan was to give him enough morphine so that he couldn't feel anything, and then remove him from the machine.
And let him suffocate to death.
Throughout the scene, Aya 0, me, has come to lie very still as Dad, dying. By the end of the scene, Dad is dead, and Aya 3 pulls a sheet over Dad. Scene 4, the obituary. Through the course of this scene, all of the Ayas walk throughout the space, this house, and inspecting its contents.
Who here has had to clean up their parents' house? After my father died, I flew back to California several times to help my mother clean out his house and get it ready for sale. I'm in my father's house in Monterey, California. I lived in this house with my father and my mother all through my high school years. But once I left college and moved to New York, my mother moved out of the house, and I mostly stayed with her whenever I came home. My father bought a lot of the same things, like he had a lot of chairs, just random chairs scattered throughout the house and even more in the garage. Lots and lots of chairs. I asked him why he bought so many and had so many just cluttering up the space. Aren't you afraid you're going to trip over them and fall? No, they're there so in case I fall, I have something to grab onto.
All of the Ayas trip on a chair.
The other thing I found in the garage were these. What do you call them? What do you call them?
Dual cassette players?
Boom boxes.
They were smallish with handles, very portable. I mean, compactors have been household technology for over 10 years. And yet here, there were 20, maybe 30 of these tape players. He also had maybe 20 of the same jacket. These members-only jackets, slightly different colors. Mostly in shades of blues and greens, some in maroon and khaki.
The jacket is passed around from Aya to Aya. It ends up with Aya 0, who puts it on and sits down at the chair.
And then in one of the drawers, I found a piece of binder paper, just a regular piece of binder paper with 3 holes, and he had typed on it with his typewriter. It was his obituary. He had written his own obituary while he was still alive. The obituary read, and I'm paraphrasing, Akira Ogawa, born August 15th, 1930 in Tokyo, Japan, graduate of Tokyo Institute of Technology, and then Hitoshubashi University. He worked at the Bank of Tokyo until 1985. His career continued with Otari Taki and managing golf courses for Fuji Country USA until he retired in 1995. Wife Noriko graduated Japan Women's University and works as interpreter for AT&T Language Line. Son Jun, born 1965, graduated Keio University and works for Sony Pictures. Married with daughter and 1 son. Daughter Aya, born 1974, graduated Columbia University with honors and a graduate degree from blank. Akira lived in Monterey, California, with a second home in Pebble Beach and never did go to grad school.
Scene 5.
Who here is a parent? So you know what the shit show parent is. I have 2 kids, 2 boys. The younger one, Kenya, is not named after the African country. The kids have Taiwanese last names, Chin from my husband's side, and from my husband's sides of the family. So I wanted to give them a Japanese first name. We arrived at the name Kenya because my father's father, my grandfather, who died before I was born, was named Kim. And we liked the name, but we felt like Ken Chin was a little bit too simple, so...
Kenji, Kenta, Kenzo, Kentaro, Kenichi, Kensuke.
Kenya. Ken as in to reveal, and Ya as in arrow.
I never knew my father's name. My father's father. I actually had no idea what he was like.
I hope he wasn't an asshole.
And Kenya will never know my father.
When our first kid, Kai, started speaking at 18 months, the words that came out of his mouth were English, which of course, that made sense because that's what we spoke at home. But a Japanese friend of mine was like,
Aya, you have to pass your perfect bilingual skills down to your child. It's such a waste if you don't.
fuck, you're right. So starting that day, I remember it being almost like an overnight thing. I started speaking Japanese exclusively at home. But it wasn't just that, it wasn't that simple. I basically had to invent a character to perform, this Japanese mom character, And if you have kids, you know, becoming a parent, you're just totally making shit up as you go.
So this is Aya 2, Jane,
Oh.
if you could read that part, please.
So where are you from?
I can't remember this guy's name.
David.
But our kids went to the same preschool.
Yes, hi Aya, you're Rowan's dad, right?
You from New York?
No.
We were on the subway after drop-off.
And where are you from?
Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Wisconsin, in a small town outside Milwaukee. I went to college in Chicago, art school, which is where I met Lorraine.
Not around.
And then we moved here.
Oh,
But we're thinking of moving back out to the Midwest, to be close to family, you know. Where's your family?
both my parents have passed, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. But they lived in California while they were alive.
Were you born in California?
No? No, I was born in Japan.
Oh, really? When did you move to the States?
We moved back and forth a lot, but I lived in Japan for all of elementary school.
But you don't have an accent.
Yeah, well, I grew up speaking both languages.
No, I'm just saying it's pretty rare now.
Yeah, I also went to American school in Japan.
No, I know a lot of Japanese people who've lived here for a long time, and it's really difficult for them to lose their accent. But your English is very good. I've noticed that about Japanese speakers specifically, and I have quite a few friends who are Japanese. And it's very difficult for them with the English, but, oh, here's my stuff. See you at school, Aya. Aya.
It's Aya.
Anyway, I basically had to invent a new Japanese, oh no, that is me. Anyway, I basically had to invent a new Japanese mom and daddy to teach my kids the language. It was really difficult at first, but after inhabiting the role for 9 years now, I'm pretty good at it, though it still takes effort.
Once the kids hit elementary school, I started taking them to Japan every summer. Here in New York, school gets out towards the end of June, but in Japan, they have school to the end of July. I don't have a place to stay in Japan, so I have to rent an apartment.
The apartment I rented through Airbnb in Tokyo the first summer I took both kids there was a loft type unit. When you open the door, there's this genkan where you take off your shoes, and then you can go either up the stairs into the sleeping area or downstairs into the living area. The sleeping area had just 2 double-sized beds and a small closet. Cute place. Pretty much just as the pictures. And the plan was I'd take the kids there, put them in school, and my husband would meet up with us in 6 weeks. So on the first night we were there, at like 2 or 3 in the morning, Kenya suddenly started screaming and crying. And I jumped out. That's okay. We'll go on. I jumped out of bed and I didn't know where I was. We were so jet lagged. And when I finally turned on the lights, I saw Kenya sitting in bed, covered from head to toe in blood. His pajamas, his pillows, blankets, and sheets were all covered in blood too. My older son, Kai, had punched Kenya in the face in his sleep and gave him a bloody nose. I tried to comfort Kenya, who was screaming as I scrubbed blood off of everything in the tiny bathtub.
Kenya is bloody and crying. The eyes are rushing over to help him, wiping off the blood, and in the process getting blood on themselves.
That was night 1. Honestly, I felt really scared. I mean, I just felt really alone. I didn't know my neighbors. I didn't have friends in the neighborhood. My husband was back in Brooklyn. And I was kind of like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like,
What the fuck am I doing
here?
here?
Why did I bring my kids here?
Why am I doing this? Like putting on the charade for my kids, pretending to be Japanese?
We don't belong here. The Japanese are so sexist.
And racist. People stare and judge me here because of the way that I dress, or because I don't wear makeup, or because of my haircut.
I'm going through insane psychic contortions, but to try to give my kids access to this culture without all of my own personal baggage around it.
What is this place anyway? What is Japan?
It's where my parents were born.
It's where I was born.
Why is birthplace important? The kids don't even know what this experience means.
They will when they're older. I want the kids to know where they came from. I want them to be able to come here whenever they want to, even without me. I want them to feel included in a culture. They speak the language, they know the customs, they have friends. They could build a life here if they wanted to. Their ancestors did.
Aya too comes towards the other Ayas as she holds Kenya, who's falling asleep. The other Ayas come around Aya too and Kenya, and everyone, all the Ayas place their hands on some part of Kenya's back, feet, or head, or hands.
Why can't we just be normal Americans?
There is no place in America that feels like we belong.
Should we move to Japan?
No. We can't live here like for real.
Where are our people?
Why isn't there a place that feels like home and just live there?
Anyway, I basically had to invent a new Japanese mom.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Page 22.
Oh,
We have to make it up.
Sorry, can you just take those last few lines? Can we just go from middle of page 21, why can't we just be normal Americans, and then go all the way to the end?
Why can't we just be normal Americans?
There's no place in America that feels like we belong.
Should we move to Japan?
no. We can't live here like for real.
Where are our people?
Why isn't there a place that feels like home and just live there?
We have to make it up.
By now, Kenya is sleeping in Aya's arms, and the Ayas are speaking very quietly, and Aya too places Kenya down gently. That's the end. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So there was more than order.
I'm sorry?
There was more than order. There's some new stuff.
Well, that last scene is new. That last scene is new, with the white guy.
Yes.
Um,
But there are a couple of lines in there that are different.
Yeah.
Too, for sure.
Yeah.
The trend, the one that I thought was more strong, good.
So in class, did you take out any of the questions about people's fathers?
Yeah.
Take out
Yeah.
questions about people's fathers.
Yeah.
Well, this is only the first half of the play, so there's another second half that has more and more questions with the audience, because almost each scene begins with questions to the audience. So it might be there.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember deleting anything. I guess my question especially for those of you who have seen some version of it before, and also for those of you who haven't, I kind of played with the order of scenes. So it used to begin with The Bachelor, but now The Bachelor is coming later and we're starting in the mortuary. And I'm just wondering how that lands it differently. How does it feel? Does it feel normal, or does it feel wrong, or did it cause any confusion, or give away too much, or anything along those lines?
By giving away too much, may I ask what you feel you need?
I'm sorry, what?
By giving away too much, may I ask what you feel like you need?
Because before, it was very much in chronological order. So so there's the Bachelor scene, and then there was my father in the ICU and dying, and then the mortuary, and then cleaning out his house, which is like the order of things that happens in real life. So that it's mixed up a little bit, so that.
I guess my question then, or my thought is, if this particular iteration that you're doing is meant to follow a particular relationship with your father to a certain degree, then perhaps in that view, it does feel like you're doing like a Kurt Vonnegut and telling everything that's going to happen in the story at the top and then go through it. But if this iteration is not necessarily about finding a culmination of a relationship with your father, but about something else of which the relationship of your father is, then it's not necessarily giving away too much at the start, because this is not where you're ending up. It's just part of a particular journey that I don't necessarily see or am aware of, because this is only the first half. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
I don't, as a person who's coming from inside it, I feel very attached to the placement of that scene because of the tone and the speed of it. It's sort of like a lot happens and then it kind of goes to a grinding but very compelling pace at that point for that scene. And it is, to me, a very dramatic and important scene, and so many tendrils are coming in and out of it. I don't know if all of you have seen it, but I feel like a lot of build up, and then that scene is like this centerpiece.
Yeah.
And I feel very attached to that.
Scene.
Yeah, where it's like this very interesting character, and then there's like the mom, and there's just so many layers happening to it, and I feel attached to that, so it's hard for me to like step out and be like, just place it there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know, like, as a person who's watched it a lot, I'm like, I love this scene. I'm just very fond of that scene, and I don't know if it's like if you're trying to make
I
it.
felt like there was a different emotional weight placed by putting the mortuary scene first, that I really, it put me on edge in a way that I liked. I mean, I was aware of the structure change, but very quickly I let go of that, but obviously I was never in it.
Right.
But I have seen it a number of times.
Yeah.
And then The Bachelorette coming later, or whatever it's called, it places a different importance on it, and it becomes more of like a sidebar commentary rather than a central scene, which I appreciated. And because I feel like there's some new themes in this at this point, like doing it a number of times have revealed to you some other parts to this play. You know, some of the new language around being Japanese, around Japan, around your intent, around your kids. It's not that it wasn't there before, but it has a different weight now. And so I liked the being kind of off balance a little bit. More than like, that's the wrong word. I thought it really worked dramatically and emotionally for me. So I liked the change.
Thank you.
I had a similar, I think it's a matter of taste, so I guess it's hard for me to think
Yeah, it
of any
is.
objective way, but I like, in general, like the moments, some moments that really resonate for me are the moments where we sort of exist in this like elevated, playful, aware of itself level, and then suddenly we like drop in, like when suddenly the question is asked, like who lost a father in the room, and suddenly you're actually realizing the extent of loss in the room, and that felt similar to me, like we were in this sort of like, and now we're playing with the structure of the play, and I'm revealing the intent behind it, and then suddenly we're like located in the sort of like the aftermath or something in a way that I like to drop into it.
I don't want to monopolize, but I just realized something else. Because structurally, physically, we're not going to be scattered in this next iteration. What you've done now scatters the play, at least the part that we've seen today. It scatters bits and pieces for me a little bit more. And so for me, it's got the potential to replace the fact that physically we're not going to be scattered. So that just occurred to me. And I think there's something to that. And I think that there's something you can lean into and get that quality that you got immediately by us you know, being everywhere in the room. So that's not completely formed, but there's something there.
Yeah, cool. Get that.
I can't speak to previous iterations since obviously I've never seen it before, but I can say that opening in the mortuary framed the play, and like as experiencing it the first time, I was aware instantly that the play was about the experience of loss, and so every scene that I read afterwards was connected to that experience of loss, and that's yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was the intent. It used to kick off with The Bachelor, which is very hot, you know, up here, and then kind of drop in. But I guess I was responding to someone saying that it's kind of like a false start in a way, or like we don't know where this is heading. That the mortuary scene is a better kind of first entry, because then it kind of tells the audience right off the bat, like, this is where we're going, essentially. So, so I was trying that out. So thank you.
I think it just, you know, it's all just a matter of our different opinions here. Because really, you could just drive it right down the middle and make a case either way.
Yeah.
Because there's this, you know, and in the rest of the play, there's this absurd use of pop culture to go up here, and then you bring it back here. And so I think I've changed my opinion about 5 times, just thinking about it, really.
Okay.
Because I think the setup, or something, I don't know. Yeah. Because either way, you want to go from, lack of a better word, the absurd to this incredible, real scene. Also absurd, but you know, that contrast I loved in different moments throughout the play, because I've seen it too, and I like using that. So my final answer is, whatever you think.
Here's the other question is, is part of the reshuffling having to do with how the audience will be situated? Like, will you be, when we've done it before, it's sort of this community group happening, and are you sort of setting up it more as like, this is a play, and it starts differently and creates a different theatrical experience because of that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is a change that I have to address. I wasn't necessarily thinking that the shuffling of the order would address it, but maybe it does, I don't know.
I kind of agree that it's your choice, really. You can really take heavy in the beginning and be like later, or you start with light and like drop really heavy on, you know. So that's the difference. But when I see the flow of the show, I follow the storytelling, but at the same time I follow the production flow of it. Sure. So when you see so if it's the chronological storytelling, the show is mostly about revealing. So you don't have to frame, you don't have to throw the thing in the beginning. You can just by the storytelling throughout the show and make a conclusion at the end of the show. But this is not chronological. You kind of go in and out of a lot of stuff here at the show. So what you say in the first scene is very important.
Yeah.
And you do it in the introduction. Let's talk about failure, like small failure, big failure. And that's kind of introduction. Yeah. But after that, I actually like the lighter start, because if you drop really heavy thing in the beginning, the show becomes all about that, all about your father. I like the bachelorette thing, because it actually, even if it's like very funny, it actually throw a lot of small question that people can experience throughout the show. Is it like there is a father who didn't connect with me, but is it my responsibility? Was it his responsibility? Is it my responsibility? Is it my fault that I didn't ask him? All kinds of stuff. It's not only about missing religion, missing like father's dad it is a little question that we can experience throughout the show. So that's why I like the lighter starts. And at the same time, because the show is not the chronological storytelling, and the show is not conventional like people have like one character and stuff, so people need to learn the grammar of the show in the beginning. So when you start with the Bachelorette, audience really very easily learn, oh, okay, the small girl is playing the dean, and then big girl or like big man is playing Rachel. So they kind of learn how to follow this show in a very easy way in the beginning. But if you start heavy, they have to take in the step and everything. They have to learn about the grammar of the show, also how to follow the show, so it becomes too much more.
Making an amazing argument.
What she said.
Yeah.
That just made me think about something that I remember, because I've seen it a few times, and the very first time, it always touched me. The very first time it hit me in a way, of course it was the first, my first experiencing of the material, but there was something about it, now that you said it that way, I remember there was something about the surprise of it getting more and more layered and more like heartbreaking, where I remember I ended up bawling. And I did not, there's something about the lightness and the playfulness and this like playing with characters who's who, that you're following this that description I think is very good, that you don't, like the starting with the mortuary, it's too, it doesn't, I didn't feel touched now, I didn't experience it. I didn't experience the loss, I didn't feel sad. It felt more like similar to how we experienced The Bachelor thing, or maybe almost like funny. It turns it more into the caricature of the mortuary person. Like it feels more like a caricature of the people. But when it was later on, it was so dark. It was so like heavy and I don't know.
And I also felt that too. I also was seeing it a couple of times, and now that I read it, I mean, now that I was one of the characters in it, or you, right? When you first asked us what kind of failure that we experienced that week, and then how we all kind of came around to the question. I felt like we didn't just dive immediately to the question of like all these stories that kind of procured where we were in the realization of our failure, right? Which to me supports the kind of like the non-chronological sensibility and the lightness of the, like we were all like we're all a part of your experiences in its relationship to this darkened space. And these light spaces too are just like the thing that allows us to understand where it dropped in, right? Whereas if you just drop in, and yes, I would agree with these.
It's hard, kind of seen it before, traveling with it, and feeling like I really just got all of it. Just moved from beginning to end, through it. I'm kind of sitting in the fact that I thought it was just kind of just exquisite as it was, so.
Well, thanks a lot for
Think about it.
I'll just say one other thing, which I have no idea if this is any use, but we were all, or I can say for the people that were around me, were totally engrossed by how you chose the people to sit on this chair. There was something that relates to all of this that is really good. So, whatever, but it was really good.
When's rehearsal?
We're all sitting around here going,
I also thought about something about the thing of that you can't have the audience and the stage, and how someone, like how hearing everyone talk about this, how you're like, there's so many layers of how you're staging it. Like you have a moment, it's like you're taking us around chronologically, so sometimes it's very much like theater, like there's a moment, like we're going back. And I just realized like that there is a kind of very specific, almost like inner imagination of choreography of that. I don't know if it would be too obvious to give it away, but that seems like it's related to the relationship of what a stage is because the way we experienced it was around us. Like you can have, it's like you're in this state, you're in the chair in the house. It's like you can be around the house because you can't have the audience on the stage. You can be staging in the house if you want to, right? Totally. But then you can play, like there's something, in a sense, instead of feeling like a constriction, I just realized like, oh, it could be like a space to play around with the choreography and the placing of time and relationship of that game of it, like that relation to the theater of it, you know?
Yeah. Helpful, thank you.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to wind this up. So, folks, you're more than welcome. There's stuff to eat and drink. This space is going to get ready for our last open studio of the day. And these folks are going to be doing it. So let's she's going to try and have some
Oh, I constructively So, yeah, I didn't have it. I'm sorry. Already? I know, I'm sorry. It's really hard. I feel so attached to it. No, I mean, it's love. Yeah, I do. I like.
No, it was just this kind of. All right.
Downstairs?
And the table, no.
You brought it up. Amazing. And I'm going to find Spencer and get the table.
Cool.
I just need the stuff from the tech closet, or the whatever closet. Did you just go?
Do you have the keys to the closet or downstairs?
I think Emma has them. You know who Emma is?
Yeah, Emma.
Oh, right. Hi. Do you have the keys?
Did you go back?
Yes.
Okay, you locked the closet when you were done?
Yes.
ready. I'm ready. I guess the last thing we'll need is just if there's a power strip and extension cord. So thank you. So are these just like independent channels?
Yeah, but they are not. No. Just wanted to get this.
Are y'all using the light cable that was left downstairs or no?
I think we're not.
You don't need that.
And where is the starter?
Thank you. I don't know if it's too dark. Too dark.
Do you want to do the top slide for me while they're setting up?
Yeah, sure.
And are all the costumes still in the other room?
No, it's all over. So
So Spencer and Cy can get that stuff separated into